And then the one that Dylan got Dylan the most is Charmander, and he said, "I frowed up, FROWED. I frowed up like a little
I
kid," and yeah.
It's just the cutest thing. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9 of Millennial Button Mashers podcast. We are going to continue our conversation from last time when we talked about 2025 and the games that were noteworthy in that year and take them into 2026. One thing before we jump into this episode though, Gavin and I quickly realized that this year is actually stacked with some good releases that we want to talk about. And so we're actually going to split this episode up into two. So feel free to like and subscribe for both of those when those drop. But we will be taking each of these in kind of mid-year segments. So we'll talk about January through June. Some games have already came out, so we'll give you those first initial impressions for the ones that already released and Gavin and I got our hands on. So we'll talk about that first. But then we'll talk about the games that are coming later in March / the rest of the mid-year mark. And then in the next episode, we'll continue conversations on July through December. So, Gavin, actually, just to start our conversation out today, I know you actually got your hands on Pokopia, and
Hmm.
I've been seeing amazing reviews online for even people that aren't necessarily, you know, Pokemon fans. Everybody's seeming to love it because of the unique blend that it brings together. But I guess I'll give you the opportunity. You've actually had hands-on experience with Pokopia. What's your, vibe?
Yeah, the I'll pull up a little presentation here. Well, just for some background stuff while we'll watch.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, it's one of the coziest games I think I've ever played. It's super fun. I don't know if you've ever played Animal Crossing New Horizons that came out like in 2020.
I haven't.
It was a big popular game because everyone was staying home during the pandemic and all that. And it was, cozy type vibes or whatever. I kind of liked that game, but there was certain things that like bogged it down for me. Like a lot of the NPCs and stuff, the other like villagers that are on your island, they kind of got like their personalities were a little basic and stale, and like eventually it kind of like it felt like you were just recycling like dialogue and stuff.
Sure.
And obviously, as we've talked in the previous episode, I'm a huge Pokemon fan, so this game was interesting to me just because of that. But it kind of it improved on that because I've showed you some memes of this. Each Pokemon feels like it has its own distinct personality, and
Hmm.
like they're all unique in their own way, which is like kind of how Pokemon's always felt, right? But this actually, you can talk to Pokemon, and since you're a Pokemon yourself, you kind of talk to them, and then you kind of like you get to know their personality more so than you normally would in a Pokemon game. It's super fun, super cute. It's kind of like like a weird combination of like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon, and Minecraft with
Hmm.
Pokemon thrown in there as like the vehicle to deliver it. I've had not played it nearly as much as I want to because I've just been busy with life, but I've had an immense amount of fun in the time I've been able to put into it. And it kind of seems like you can just do whatever and kind of do anything. And it's been super cool, super fun to play with, super cute. Yeah,
Yeah, so you
that's
definitely
my
recommend it. It sounds like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would recommend it 100% if you like any type of if you're because cozy games aren't for everybody, but if you're a fan of the cozy type game where you're just running around, cleaning up stuff and, vibing on the island and doing that all kind of stuff, or if you're a fan of Pokemon, I would highly recommend this game. I would say this is a 9 out of 10 at minimum, if not a 10 out of 10 game.
I think the one thing that's unique about Pokopia is like when you think of the other Pokemon games that have came out, I think the focus is usually on adventure and battling for the most part.
Mhm.
With this, it's almost like you're living alongside the Pokemon and kind of just like rehabilitating the world, which I think is unique. So you get a unique lens of Pokemon into, like you mentioned, their personalities, their strengths, how they actually feel about the world and how they interact with it. So I think it's a very unique spin on the Pokemon formula. And I also just wanted to call out too that with the success of Pokopia, it's interesting because this is the first time I think Koei Tecmo is doing the development behind this and not Game Freak for once. I'm
Hmm.
sure Game Freak had an influence on it, don't get me wrong, but it's just interesting that this is popping off so heavily, and it wasn't necessarily one of, like, the true Pokemon company, like, developing it, so I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it also kind of like I think you made a good point there. You're just like it kind of you're like existing alongside the Pokemon instead of like capturing them and
And
battling and
training
stuff. And
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It is kind of fun because like you encounter different Pokemon, and since you're a Ditto, you transform and to gain their abilities to do stuff. Like for example, you find the Squirtle, which gives you Water Gun, which is how you water plants, and like there's dried up trees and stuff like that. And you as a water source and all that sort of goodies. But it basically it's just so cool because you like get to like it almost like gives love to Ditto. Not that like people don't like Ditto or whatever,
right,
but it feels like it almost feels like it's it's shedding like a new light on that character and making it more unique and like giving a little bit more character itself. And
right.
it's pretty cool.
I would agree, and I mean, you would know this better than me, Gavin, but Ditto was one of the OGs, basically from like the first series of Pokemon. Did he ever, he or she or whatever it is, does it show up later in the series as well?
It's it's in
Or
every
it's pretty
game. It's
consistent? Okay.
basically yeah, it's pretty much in every game except for Black and White. But it's
Okay.
pretty much used as a breeder Pokemon
Oh, okay.
because like to breed eggs and such.
Yeah.
Technically, in order to breed a Pokemon, you would have to have, a male Eevee, a female Eevee, and then that like the traits would pass down and stuff. Well, if you just have one Eevee and one Ditto,
Hmm.
uh Ditto can pair with any Pokemon to create the egg you want, and then also makes you have to find a lot of people when they do breeding is to get like certain stats. And so if you have a Ditto that has the stats you want, you don't have to worry about finding two of the same Pokemon that have the stats. You only have to find the one you want the egg of, and then you already have the Ditto. So like that's pretty much like been its biggest purpose in the game is to be a be egg fodder almost for every other Pokemon that you're breeding. Because a lot of people will breed for competitive stats or breed for shinies. Because shinies, let's take an already rare thing and make it even cooler and rarer, even though it's the exact same thing, but just a little different.
Yeah. No, that's cool. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all Ditto's for.
Cool. Yeah, no, I would agree that Ditto is definitely unique in this one, and I like the fact that they kind of brought it to the forefront because it does make sense for a Ditto to be able to adapt to, the different things it's coming across, like with, running into Bulbasaur and being able to do like the Vine Whip to like cut down things, and like running into Scyther, same thing, like slicing things. Lapras was swimming. Like I think it's a very unique mechanic, and whoever decided to do that definitely deserves a raise because I think that that is an awesome way of taking the uniqueness of Pokemon, the unique traits of Ditto, and then tying it back to the things that already work well with gaming, like Minecraft and the
Mhm.
other cozy games that we mentioned before. I think it's a great little melding of so many worlds in one place. So I like
Mhm.
the vibe that it's given off, and I'm glad to see that it's been successful so far too. So, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it's like the highest rated Pokemon game ever as far as
right,
like ratings go, which I mean,
100%.
take that with a grain of salt because people rate whatever. But it's
Yeah.
also sold like millions and millions of copies already. Like I want to say
Mhm.
it like broke a record.
And I would be curious too, whenever Nintendo is able to report out on like their quarterly earnings or whatever, how much of a spike they got from Switch 2 console purchases.
But yeah, it sold 2.2 million copies in 4 days.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible. I
in
mean,
the
I'm
first four
glad to hear
days.
that.
Yeah,
So that's awesome.
yeah.
I'm excited to see that because I think that'll bring more uniqueness to the Pokemon world. Because I
Mhm.
don't know if you feel this way, Gavin, but just like an outsider, somewhat of a Pokemon fan, it seems like we've taken something that was successful in the late '90s and then kind of just reiterate or iterated upon it slightly every year. And like you get new characters, don't get me wrong, but like the main baseline game has always, for the most part, been like, let's say 75% the same. There's just like subtle uniquenesses to every single one. So I like the fact that this is like something brand new. Take something relatively familiar, not similar, but familiar with
Mhm.
the characters, or sorry, the pocket monsters, and then makes a new genre on top of it. So that's why I like it the most, I think.
Yeah. It's just another I agree. I think it's another way to further like envelop into the Pokemon world. Like it kind of like I was telling you the other day, um it's weird because it kind of has like a post-apocalyptic kind of vibe, which is
Yeah.
like not what I was expecting at all. You get to
Hmm.
that first little island and then you go or the first little area and you see a destroyed Pokemon Center. You're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what's going on here?" And you're the Ditto, but you're dressed up as as your former trainer. You don't know how long it's been since you've seen the trainer, but you're dressed as or you're transformed as that, and you go talk to the Professor Tangrowth at first, and he
Hmm.
goes, "Whoa, a human? I haven't seen one of those, and I don't know how long." And you're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And then like as you're exploring, you see like broken down houses and like stuff destroyed, and you find like human relics, and sometimes it's like a journal entry, and you can read it, and like there's actually like a story. I'm sure eventually one of those YouTube channels will
Dissect
play
it
through the
all
whole
and put it
game,
together.
dissect it all, and put it together, and I'll watch the video because I don't want to have to
Yeah.
think about it myself. But
Yeah.
I there's definitely like a story there, and I'm curious to see what it is. Also, with same thing with like Minecraft, there's like I've been seeing on like Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, people posting the stuff they've built.
Hmm.
My gosh, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, someone recreated, like, every town from the original game in it. Like, they created the exact routes and all that stuff. I've seen extravagant cities made, and I'm like, "Well, I just made, like, a little hut."
And that was good enough for me.
Yeah, it's good enough for me, it's fine, and then people making, like, a fully functional warehouse to store all of their stuff that like,
Find
have
along the way.
collect yeah, it's insane. It's pretty cool. I need to play it more, but probably play some once we get off here. Once we're done with the record, probably start playing a little bit more.
Nice. No, yeah, I'm excited to eventually jump into that. I was telling Gavin before we jumped on that I think this will be the tipping point for me to go and get a Switch 2. I've been putting it off, and I think because of RAM prices and also import fees and all the other things, I've kind of been putting it off to see like how the overall economy adapts to all the craziness that's going on, which I don't feel like it's going to get any better, candidly, right now. So I'm kind of like, do I just bite the bullet, buy it because I know I'm going to eventually, or do I wait until it inevitably goes up in price and I'll be mad? So all that to say, I think Pocopia will be the tipping point for me, and then we'll go back to, some of the other games that we've talked about in previous episodes, like Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I want to get my hands on, just haven't been able to because it's a Switch 2 exclusive. But before we move on from Pocopia, Gavin, the one thing I think is very unique about this game, and it goes back to the Pokemon personalities. Can you tell the listeners here a little bit more about like the phrases that some of these
So
Pokemon say?
yeah, I sent this Dylan's alluding to this meme I sent of him. And like I said, every Pokemon kind of has a unique, like fun personality. And someone like took screenshots and collected some of the better ones. Like the first time you see Squirtle, he's like just laying on a patch of dry land. He's like, I need water. Like just like he's like, oh my gosh, he's freaking out. And then you've got a Magic Carp that's like, bro, I don't know, I need like it's freaking
Yo,
out. Like they
where
all
am
have their
I?
own, yeah,
Yeah.
where am I? Yeah. And then the one that Dylan got Dylan the most is Charmander, and he said, "I frowed up, FROWED. I frowed up like a little kid," and yeah,
It's just
and
the
it's
cutest
funny.
thing.
Well, it's also funny. Like they almost like gave like some personalities. Like they made Gyarados kind of like a southern Appalachian accent or something, like
Shoot,
the way stuff is spelt, it's like it's almost like it's talking to you like that southern twang. It's like I did
man,
not expect a Gyarados to like the way it reads is like it sounds just like that. It's just so fun. It's so funny.
that is kind of funny.
Yeah.
In the original anime, did any of the Pokemon have accents? Can you remember?
I mean, kind of. The only one that really talked was Meowth,
Yeah, true.
and he had that like accent, like like a New Yorker almost. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah,
have coined Gyarados as having a Southern
yeah.
slash
It was,
Appalachian
yeah. It's such
accent.
a
That's
weird,
funny.
like, yeah, such a weird like accent, and yeah, it's pretty good though.
Very cool. Awesome. I'm
But
excited.
yeah, I was gonna say, I know now since you'll have time to play that once you get your Switch, since you just finished the game that you're wanting to talk about here,
Yeah.
Resident Evil.
Yes. Yes. Resident Evil Requiem or Resident Evil 9 for those that are following along in the series. I will say that this game didn't take me by surprise. I knew it was very good just based off initial reviews. Metascore critic was very high. I think it ended up getting to like 88 or so, which is still very, very high. But I
Pretty
think,
good.
yeah, very good. I think the cool thing about this game specifically is it takes both types of fan bases and melds something together that both will enjoy. What I mean by that is there's Grace Ashcroft, which is visible on our screen here. She is a FBI agent, but she's not in the field. She's more of an analyst. And so she is not as experienced as someone like Leon, not very good at controlling the gun. She always plays from the first person preview. At least she's, programmed that way. The game's programmed that way so that she's plays from the first person. Leon plays from third. And I think when you play in first person, at least for me, it's a little bit more immersive. And especially because she's so, let's say, green to any field activity, it makes the tension rise. At least for me, it did. And so, like,
Yeah.
she has like subtle, like, breathing, like, you can tell she's freaking out. So I think the voice actor did a great job of like creating that tension through the sound,
Mhm.
as well as just the uniqueness of her perspective on certain things. Like, you could always tell she's nervous. You can always tell she's startled. And I don't get startled very easily when I play these games. You can always kind of like tell when things are going to pop out. So I never really got scared in any sense, but I was very tense and like anxious at certain points. And I think it helped with her character. But I think for anybody that's a fan of like Resident Evil 7 or Village or any of the recent Resident Evil, you'll actually like playing with Grace because of that first person point of view and the tension there. But also going back to like the badass of Leon, Leon is, obviously very prevalent in 4 as well as 2 and some others. And I think I played the Resident Evil 4 remake recently within the past, let's say 5 years. And I think the Leon style gameplay, because you do switch back and forth between Grace and Leon throughout the entire story. You play from the third person point of view with Leon, and you just feel like an absolute badass. So going back to Grace, like you feel very scared and very nervous, very cautious of like when you're shooting people and like when you would sneak around instead of, confronting some of these zombies. With Leon, it was the exact opposite. Like you still had scarcity in the amount of ammo that you would get throughout the game, but you weren't as, worried about that. You kind of just got to be a badass and like kill as many zombies as possible when you got through the Leon parts, which I thought was unique and interesting. So I think again, going back, this is a great game for the people that might be either fans of both or fans of one or the other. That way you get exposure to both types of perspectives and experiences. So I would highly, highly recommend it. Now, I will say, just my own point of view, and I'm not going to spoil anything with this, but for the first half, you're primarily playing as Grace with little bits of Leon sprinkled throughout. I
Mhm.
actually preferred the first half. And then once you got into the second half, it kind of flipped and you played more primarily as Leon versus Grace. That's where it kind of slowed down for me. I really liked Grace because of, again, the tension, the puzzles that were involved with Grace's piece, and then also being able to subtly switch back to Leon every once in a while. But Leon was very short lived in the first half, and then again, it switched. So I would say, like, I would definitely play this game again, just for the first half. I don't think I have to necessarily play the last half where Leon's kind of like the main character energy, but it is very good. I highly recommend it. And again, for fans of new and old, I think there's something there for both parties, which I think is why it's so successful right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a very cool. It ties a lot of knots into or ties a lot of things together from previous stories that maybe just didn't make sense or felt like loose ends. It does tie that a lot together. And I'll say the last thing that I really, really appreciated about this game, I just finished it last night. You can choose at the very end of the game, let's just say for, spoilers purposes, option A or option B. And at the end, if you chose, well, either one you choose, it'll basically at the end, when it wraps up the credits, it'll say, congratulations, you beat the game, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to see how the other option goes, basically,
Ooh,
which I
I
think
like that.
is awesome. And then I was like, yeah. And then it says at the bottom, no content will be lost or decisions made or anything. So it basically reassured you, like, hey, you're not going to, ruin anything if you try it again or whatever. And so I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, let's do this because I'd much rather do it now while I know exactly what happened previously and how I can compare it to like option B for this example
Hmm.
without having to replay the entire campaign, which I think is good.
That
And
I
it's a
was gonna
short
say,
campaign.
Dylan.
Like you
That
can replay it if you
yeah.
want, but yeah, I
I
just
was gonna
really
say that
appreciated that.
what you just said reminded me of one of my only complaints about Expedition 33.
Right.
Because
Yep.
there's at the very end of the game, there's an obvious choice between two paths, and funny enough, you and I picked opposite paths, but I thought it was going to be similar, where it would, like, after you pick the path, it would put you right back before you made that choice, and it didn't. So I had to go onto YouTube and watch the alternate ending for the one that I did, or the different from the one that I did. So I actually really like that. That's a cool feature.
Yeah. I was very surprised to see it, to be completely honest, because again, not spoiling anything, the option that I first chose was very short. Like I was like, oh,
Mm,
that's it? Like that's weird. And then I'm
mm-hmm.
glad that it prompted me like, hey, you chose this one. Are you sure that you don't want to go back and see this? Like I really appreciated that, especially
That Yeah,
from
that's
like a
awesome.
relevancy perspective. So you could see it side by side versus being like, oh, what happened? Or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
We
think
all
it
have
makes
short attention
sense.
spans. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes sense for a game. Because some games have like multiple endings, so maybe you can't do it with
Right.
that. Like Cyberpunk has, like, I don't know, like what, 8 or 9 endings.
Right.
So like, but I like with this, I actually do really like that feature with having two distinct endings. You can just flip back or like you can just flip to see what the other one was.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not like you have to play an extensive amount to get back to the ending either, which was nice. Like it was like, let's just say there was a door right before the ending. It puts you right before that door. So like it's not like you have to like wait through a bunch of like heavy cutscenes or like you don't have to do like a crazy mission to get to the ending. It's like right there, right at the end. So I
Okay.
really appreciated
Okay.
that. So it was
That
good.
is nice. I was thinking, and there's just a thought when you were explaining how the gameplay worked. So, do you think that the reason Grace is in first person, aside from like having that, is because like when you're in first person, you have like, it's because she's inexperienced, so she has that smaller field of view, so you
Yeah.
can't see like stuff behind you, stuff around you, and it, like you said, it makes you feel a little bit more scared. But do you think that that was like an intentional story choice that they did that? Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe they did that on purpose because like she's more inexperienced, so you're in that first person. You're a little cut off. You can only see what's right in front of you. Whereas like where you're Leon, it's a seasoned Leon. Like we can see that he's noticeably older than he was. You're in
Right.
that third person where you can see everything. Like he knows what's going on. He's everywhere. Like, do you think that that had anything to do with the way they did that, or you think it's just coincidence and that's
100%. No, I think it was
okay?
very, very intentional. I think I think there's 2 reasons why they did this. I think they wanted to capture the recent fans, the people like me that clung on from 7, 8 to 9 because of the first person nature of it. I think I mentioned this in past episodes. I'm not necessarily a huge third person, zombie shooter fan. I've gotten into it a little bit more because of Resident Evil, but I think they did it because of that to like appeal to the later half of the crowd that came on later, but also Yes, I absolutely think they wanted to tie into the tense nature of Grace and kind of like her. I mean, she's somewhat feeble. Like she's very capable, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, she's just green.
very green in terms of, field activity. The one thing I was going to say too, though, is with Grace, I was doing some research, just watching YouTube and like seeing other reactions from other content creators. And one of the things that they said is while you can use the default perspectives, which is first for Grace, third for Leon, you don't have to stay to that. You could actually do first person Leon and third person Grace. And
Okay.
the one thing that's unique about Grace, though, is if you do go into third person, she moves a little bit faster than you do in first person, but she also will fall down if you run too fast. And so like that's to create extra tension for the third person
Mhm.
perspective. So like if you're running down a hallway and there's, like this big thing coming at you, you fall, that creates that tension that you would have inherently missed having that third person
Okay.
POV. So
That's
it's a cool little melding of
yeah.
two little genres that make it unique enough so you still get the tension, but you don't have to play from a first person perspective if you don't prefer it.
Yeah. Interesting. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. It's very cool. So I think they did, again, a really good job. Capcom in general is doing a great comeback with lots of remakes, a lot of energy there. It seems like they can't miss right now. And I think that that's tried and true with Resident Evil Requiem as well. So I was very pleased. It makes me wanna go back and play 7, and I also downloaded 8 on my ROG Ally, so I probably will play that a little bit too just to see, like, how significantly different it is from 8 to 9. So
Hmm.
maybe some more reporting to do there in the future, but
Yeah.
loved it. So
So yeah, I'm assuming you would recommend this to everyone out there.
I would. And I would say, let's say for the first half, like I mentioned, like where Grace is kind of like the primary your character you're playing out of, I would say 99.9 out of 10. I would absolutely rate it very, very high. Like I had an amazing time with that experience. I would say it does fall back a little bit for me in the latter half when Leon becomes the primary, probably to like an 8. So if we're going to meet somewhere in the middle, let's say 8.7, 8.5, just for safety. Maybe a 9, but I would say it's very, very good. It's probably my favorite that I've played in the series for sure.
Okay. Good to know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we talked about the ones that have already came out in 2026, obviously with Pocopia and Resident Evil Requiem. Keep in the comments too if you guys have jumped in at all and had any initial reactions. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? We'll be happy to hear your opinions. But Gavin, we'll move on to the ones that haven't came out yet, but are kind of right around the corner, to be honest.
Hmm.
And that actually starts with Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert comes out on March 19th. I actually pre-ordered this really recently because it's a very pretty game. There's a ton of mechanics in here that you just don't see all in one place. And you'll kind of see that throughout what Gavin's got pulled up on his screen. This is a Korean studio called Pearl Abyss. They're most commonly known for Black Desert Online, which is a MMO, I believe. Don't give
Yeah.
me
It
keep me
is
honest,
a
Gavin.
it is one of the most grind heavy MMOs of all time. Like it's one of those types of MMOs where if you miss a day, you fall behind a month type of game.
Really? Oh, wow. I
Like
didn't
you
realize
have
that.
to be a perma grinding to stay up with that game.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the reason why I'm gravitating towards this game is because of all the different systems here, as you can see. There's obviously a really in-depth magical system. There's 3 playable characters that you can play as, so not too overwhelming there, which I appreciate. But in terms of the lands that you get to experience, there's obviously the Crimson Desert, which is very barren wasteland. But there's also a area where there's like mechs and like very futuristic style things. There's also a like you can fly on dragons, so you're kind of getting like a little bit of a medieval vibe. You're also doing a lot of sword play and a lot of fights via bosses. So I think there's a lot of kind of amalgamation of different genres all melding into one place. And a lot of people, like myself, were very skeptical that this is going to actually be good because there's just so many systems. But Digital Foundry just recently did like a deep dive with the PC version as well as the PS4 or sorry, PS5 Pro version. And it seems to be running pretty well, which was a big concern. But we did learn, or I did learn this past Friday and some other gaming catch up news stories that I watch. They worked on this game for 7 years. And then every year they would go back into their proprietary video game engine and redevelop it to make sure that the performance could meet the standards of what they're trying to develop, which I thought was really, really cool. And so obviously TBD if this is going to launch in a good state, but based off people getting their first hands and first impressions on this, it is very, very positive. The only negative criticism I've heard so far is that there are a ton of systems in here that makes it very challenging to learn. But I think going back to what you said, Gavin, about their previous work, that might
Hmm.
just be par for the course for them, but maybe there's a high barrier to entry, but once that barrier to entry is met by the player, maybe that's when it kind of unlocks value for everybody, like where
Yeah.
they actually lean in and love it. So, I'll have more impressions on this, not in the next episode, but the episode after that, because I'll have my hands on this. But very, very excited at the potential here, and I really hope it doesn't suck, for lack of better words.
Yeah, I think it comes out on what, Thursday?
I think so. Yeah. So this episode will post on Wednesday, so we'll have basically a day before that. But yes, I think it's
Yeah,
the
it comes out
19th.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. In terms of the launch. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yep. And that comes out
Yeah, this
on
does
Thursday. Yeah.
it is interesting. I didn't know a whole lot about this game before like we've like looked into it or before you like brought it up for this and I've looked into it. It almost looks like kind of you're saying like it looks like it's a combination of like three different games. Like it almost looks like your regular like, run around slasher like fighting enemies kind of game. I don't know if did you ever play Shadow of the Colossus
I
on
didn't. I know what it is
PlayStation?
though. Yeah.
Okay. It was kinda giving those kind of vibes a little bit too, because there was some, like, big hulking, like, Titan-esque, like, huge monsters that it looked like you were fighting, and then, like, it had a little bit of that, had a little bit of, like, Skyrim where you're just running around beating up people, and then, yeah, it's very cool looking. I
Yeah. There
might have to check this one out.
for sure. And I'll give you my opinions too before you jump in, just to make sure this is going to be worth your while, especially
Yeah.
given that Pocopia is going to take probably a lot of your mind share, just to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to jump into this. So I'll have some first impressions for the not again the next episode, but the episode after that for folks that might be jumping in. But let us know too in the comments if you guys are excited for this one because I certainly am. Still slightly skeptical, but I'm going in with some optimistic vibes to it because of what it provides.
Nice.
Awesome, cool. Next one we had on our list was Mouse PI for Hire. Gavin, I think this one especially gives both of our vibes, and it is coming out around my birthday in the month of April. So April 16th. This is a mixture of kind of the newer Doom games, like the boomer shooters of what is coined as, and Steamboat Willie style graphics. So very noir style, black and white the entire time. The art style almost reminds me of how Cuphead actually looks. So it looks like it's very attention to detail, very cartoony, very fun, and kind of like a whimsical vibe, but also somewhat serious in nature too. Like I haven't had the chance to dive deeper on the story quite yet, but it is a shooter. So I'm sure there's going to be some kind of tension there, but you can see on the screen that it's very, very unique from an art design perspective. And I like the fact that they basically take the fast run and gun play of Doom and kind of pair it with a cartoony style video
Yeah.
game that you just don't really see very often. And I think the one last thing that I'll say about Mouse PI for Hire before I give you the opportunity to react to this, Gavin, it's also voiced by Troy Baker, who is a very, very famous voice actor. Not sure how they got him on this project. Actually, I do because of how awesome this looks, but I'll be interested to see. He brings such a unique perspective to each video game that he's been in, at least recently. So I can't wait to see how he approaches this character specifically.
Mhm.
And it sounds like too, it's not just going to be, I mean, it is mostly linear from what I understand, but there is a lot of like player choice that comes involved with this game. So I'm excited to see both and how that comes out.
Yeah, this game looks super fun. I kind of like you were saying, it's like Doom, but like cartoony. It's like obviously Doom is it's just overly
Yeah,
gory as like a as an appeal, but this seems like almost like it almost feels like a little bit Doom, a little bit, BioShock, kinda giving off
yeah,
a little bit of
mhm,
BioShock
I
vibes with,
could see
like, the
that.
different like, it kinda looks like you have some different powers here, and, like, that kind of, like I guess those are very similar type, I guess BioShock's more story driven, whereas, like, Doom's more of just run and gun kinda thing, but
Right,
there's
right,
similar vibes, but, like, it seems like it's, like, a good medium. I was thinking, though, while watching this, because like you said, the Steamboat Willie, I wonder if
mhm.
this game was started in development because of the Steamboat Willie intellectual property going into public domain as of
What
recently, like
did it?
yeah, there's a weird, like,
Clause or
Disney did
something?
some weird well, no, Disney did some weird stuff with, like, the copyright of, like, technically the IP is in public domain, but you can't use the exact Steamboat Willie animation because it's been used for the Disney logo. Like the animated section, if you notice in like Disney movies recently, it starts off with that little animated Steamboat Willie. So
Yeah,
like gets them more copyright on it. Like a similar thing, like obviously not gaming related, but you saw like a couple years ago someone made the Winnie the Pooh horror movie. So that's because Winnie the Pooh went into public domain so you can do whatever with it.
yeah,
And, like, that's why it like, people are making crappy B-list horror movies, like, to just make money off of it because they could.
right.
And so, I wonder if this was, like, started off as, like, a similar thing with, like, Steamboat Willie going into it, because it's kinda what it feels like, but either way, this seems like a very fun, cute, but horrific type of game. It seems like fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to get my hands on it. So, and
Yeah.
that comes out not too far away. It's April 16th. So by the time this posts, about a month. Excited to see what that comes up, and obviously if you guys are excited too, keep us posted. But very cool.
Yeah, this one definitely probably gonna end up on the wish list for me.
Cool. Do we want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit that
Cool.
one up quite a bit.
Great. Awesome. So next one, 007 First Light. This one is coming out May 27th. I think I'm most excited about this one because we really haven't got a mainline James Bond game in several years, at least not that I can remember. I feel like there was a time period where we were kind of getting, and I think we might have talked about this in the past, but we are kind of getting a also paired with, like, the movie launch as well, and we really
Mhm.
haven't gotten that in recent history, which is fine, and I think this is not gonna be tied directly to a movie release, so it's kind of its own little thing, which is nice, and the thing that's most unique about this one, I think, is it's being developed by IO Interactive, which if nobody's familiar with that, that's actually the recent developers of the successful Hitman games. And so I think that's
Mm.
especially noteworthy because if you haven't played those games, I think the player choice is very, very unique with that, with the old Hitman games. And so with Hitman, let's say you have like your target, right? You can basically decide how you eliminate that target, and it's completely up to you as far as player choice goes. And I just bring that up because if IO Interactive is developing this as well, I would assume that there's some certain level of that as well. Like, I'm sure there's certain linear aspects where it's like, yes, we want you to lead down this path. But the fact that you can kind of be like very player's choice and like do what you want in this world is very cool. And I think also the other thing that's unique about this one specifically is that it's a younger James Bond as well. So there's not as much lore with this one because it is a younger James Bond. Like you don't know exactly what he's experienced at his life yet. Like, is he brand new spy? Is there any aspect of this where you're learning new abilities that a spy would learn in like a spy academy or anything like that? So I think this being like that younger James Bond, there's a lot of room for them to interpret, fill in the blanks, really take creative liberties here. And I think there's no better studio to do that than IO Interactive with this kind of IP. So excited to see
Yeah,
what
that
that
one
will look like when it comes.
this looks
Yeah.
pretty cool. I kinda like yeah, like you said, I like the fact that you are a younger James Bond, and I think you are right on that. I don't think they made any of the Daniel Craig movies into
I think they might have
games.
made some, but I don't think they were popular. Like I remember like Quantum of Solace, I think had one, but I don't think it was like good. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Yeah, no, this seems cool. I wonder if it's gonna be like somewhat origin story-ish,
Yeah,
like of how,
I'm
because
wondering
like
too.
obviously he's very much younger. Like, is this like how he becomes 007 or something? Like, I'll be like interesting to see. And I do hope it does have some of that sandbox element that Hitman had, like where it's like you can do whatever you want. Like you were saying, you can run up to somebody and put an explosive cigarette lighter in their pocket and then activate it and walk away so you're not even close. You can, put piano wire behind their neck and strangle them and then have to hide the body. Like, or you can just pull out your gun and pull the trigger and bang, they're expired. Like
Exactly.
that's the cool thing about Hitman. It's like a sandbox of creativity for you to be able to complete your missions however you want. So if they could turn that into like a James Bond style game, I think it'll be successful because people loved the Hitman franchise and still do. So if you can do that with like something a similar property that's not purely Hitman related, like if you can get that sandbox creativity with having to like collect information instead of just like purely like you're putting out a hit on somebody, I feel like that'd be pretty cool. And I'll be interested to see how it ends up turning out.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think the one other thing that I think Hitman brought that was unique as well is being able to dress like the person that you just killed, right? Just to
Mhm.
kind of like blend in and make it so like you're actually, a waiter or a butler or like,
Yeah.
all those different things. So I'll be interested to see if they adapt that for James Bond too, because that's not necessarily been like his, you know, vibe, I guess, let's say. But I'm very, very interested to see what they'll do with this one because I think for me, I appreciated the older James Bond games like we've talked about in the past with GoldenEye. I think that's a very nostalgic thing, but also, I don't know if you played this, Gavin, 007 Nightfire from like the PS2 days. Do you remember that game?
Think I did. Is that one of I played one of them on the Nintendo GameCube, and
Okay, that could have been it.
I
It was
cannot
like
remember
early
the name of it.
2000s.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
I played one of them in that time frame. I had it on the GameCube, and it was one of the James Bond games, obviously, but I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember doing certain missions, and I had fun with it. Like, that's back when it was, like, ultra linear, like, you had to do this, this, and
Mhm.
this, but it was still super fun, so I have no reason to believe that I wouldn't have fun with this one.
Agreed. Agreed. The reason why I bring up Nightfire though, I think when you think about GoldenEye, very pixelated, very, like of the era type of game, like there was obviously a lot of technical limitations that we had to overcome with Nintendo 64. Not saying it's a bad console by any means, just given the technology at the time, like you were only able to get like a certain level of graphic capability. Nightfire, like, leveled that up into the PS2 era and made it a little bit more crisp, a little bit more real, and I think it kinda gave you a little bit of, like, the Hitman kind of vibe of, like, being able to choose how you worked through the world, so I'm curious how they'll make that possible with this new James Bond series, given that I mean, you guys have seen several screenshots of what we've shown so far, just the graphic capability alone anymore will make this a very pretty game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping too, it's not just a pretty game. It is going to be actually a fun game too, which
Yeah,
I
hopefully
have
there's some
no doubt.
substance.
Exactly. I have no doubt with IO Interactive that they'll crush this one. Very, very excited about that. Cool. Gavin, I'll actually give you the floor to talk about the next one.
Yeah, this next one's gonna be a little bit of a change of pace from what we've been talking about. This game did come out about a month ago, but it is a it is a very fun party goofy game. It's called Super Battle Golf, and basically the like elevator pitch I would give for it is it's like you're playing. It's a round of golf where you're all playing at the same time, and it's like that with Mario Kart involved. But yeah, it's basically golf with your friends, and you're each trying to finish the hole. You all play at the same time, and you're trying to finish first and win. You play like a 9-hole round, and then you get a bunch of Mario Kart type items where you get like a dueling pistol, landmines, an orbital laser, shield, coffee for a speed boost, a golf cart, and you can basically sabotage your friends that you're playing with, and it's obviously first one wins the hole, and then you play a certain number of holes, and whoever has the most points. And if you're watching with us, you can see all this, you can see all the chaos that is happening with it, and it looks like it's. I mean, it's a super fun game. I haven't been able to pick it up yet, just because I've been busy with life. I'm planning on picking it up soon, playing because I have a couple friends that are interested in playing it, or they've been playing it, and I would like to play with them. But yeah, it's just like I don't know. It's just a fun, chaotic game, and then one of the reasons why I think it's hilarious is after you sink a putt, you just stand there and just dance. You just dance. Some of the dance moves that that it has in the game are just crazy. Like you're really getting down after you sink the putt to like make it in, and
Well,
it's
with how
fun. I've
chaotic it is, like, I would be
Mhm.
dancing too, like, I mean, you're, like, battling
Exactly.
all these landmines and, like, these people, like, getting after you, so, yeah, I'd be excited
Yeah.
too. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I sent Dylan a video of this, but like just look at the way that guy was just dancing. Yeah. But I've been watching a streamer and his friends play it, Northern Lion, pretty popular streamer, and it's so funny because they rightfully it's just like when you play Mario Kart with your friends, like you crash out when people use items on you, and you're like, why are you targeting me? And all this stuff, and it's like, people this is definitely potential to be a friendship ruining game. I would
100%.
not be surprised if in development there weren't many fist fights in the office over this game because this is the type of game that's like a fun party game, but it's definitely gonna test the boundaries of your friendship, and I don't mean that lightly. It is an infuriating game, but it also, like, it's got all the customization options so you can, like, put funny little outfits on your characters, and you just run around and then just hit hit play golf. It's making golf into a goofy, fun party game.
No, I'm excited to hear what you think on this,
Yeah.
um, and how crazy it gets with friend groups too, so, yeah, definitely keep us posted, maybe not in the
Yeah,
next
for
episode,
sure.
of course, but, episode
Yeah.
after that for sure.
Whenever I'm able to actually get it, I'll definitely play with some friends, and then they might not be my friends anymore, you know?
Exactly. Could be one of those games. That's alright. Cool. Awesome. Perfect. Well, that was Super Battle Golf. Gavin, when did it come out, did you say?
Came out February, like, 18th, I believe?
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, 19th, February 19th, and so far it has up to about 3,000 or 3,200 reviews, and it's overwhelmingly positive.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, let's get into a couple more before we break for the first episode here of our 2026 Look Forward series. So the next one is Sorrows. This one, I believe, keep me honest here, Gavin, is going to be a PlayStation exclusive.
Mhm.
And it's coming out on April 3rd. This one is from the makers of the big hit called Returnal. And upon initial review, I don't know a lot about this game, just to be completely candid, but it seems like what they're taking what worked with Returnal and putting a brand new story character spin on it. And the thing that it looks like they're repeating with Returnal is that every time you die, you come back as a stronger version of yourself. So from what I've played
Okay.
with Returnal in the past, basically it's you're playing as this character and you will essentially go through the story as much as you possibly can, almost like a roguelike it seems like, and then you'll get to a certain point, die, and then you'll go back to basically your starting point. But you do take the things that you've learned so far into that next quote unquote run. Soros is basically doing the same exact thing. Uh, the one thing that I did notice, though, is there's a certain point where you're playing through the game and you find basically this item. I can't remember exactly what this was, but I watched like a release trailer with this. You find the item and it completely changes the gameplay up till that point. So, like, with the game, like, you have like this kind of post-apocalyptic world almost vibe, but there's also like some subtle, like, kind of sci-fi slash, like, horrific type of characters that you're fighting and bosses and design there. But once you find this item, it completely takes what was existing in the game and makes it even worse and even harder. So like the characters or the bosses that you're fighting become overwhelmingly challenging. Um, and so it's just something very unique. It looks like a very stunning game. Again, sorry, I'm kind of like talking in circles a little bit about this one because I don't know much about the story. It just looks like a very, very compelling action game, basically. So excited to see what people react to this one. I'll be honest in saying I probably won't pick this one up day one, but I'll be interested to see the overall reaction from streamers, the general vibe, because it does look very fast paced and again, takes what was successful with Returnal, it looks like, and kind of cranks it up to 10. So excited to see what the
Yeah.
general community's reaction will be like to this one.
Yeah, this looks like an interesting one. It almost like I didn't realize at first, like, because you were kind of saying with the second chance mechanic or whatever. I didn't realize it was kind of like a roguelike because it doesn't. The aesthetic does not look like it is. Like I know it's probably not
No,
purely like a roguelike, but it's like
right.
similar,
It's the
where like
closest
you're just
comparison I could think of. Yeah.
yeah, like we're run based and it's not like a just definitive story. It's kind of
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not I before we had started talking about this, I don't even know if I had heard of this one because I've been a little plugged out of the PlayStation world. Even though I have a PlayStation, I've just been more
Yeah.
plugged into PC and Nintendo basically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll see what comes of this one. Yeah, excited to see what the overall sentiment will be with this one.
Yeah,
So, cool. Last one of our first
first half
episode
of the
here of
year.
2026. Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
don't know that this actually fits within this one, but I just wanted to really talk about it. Bradley the Badger, we've talked about this before. It's supposedly supposed to launch in 2026. We don't have a firm deadline. And I actually did for this next episode, just kind of like a sneak peek. We do have a lot of games that are supposed to come out in 2026 that we'll talk about, but I definitely wanted to put this one at the forefront because just based off what you guys probably know about Gavin and I, if you've been listening since the beginning, this
Hmm.
has us written all over it. I mean, it
Oh
is a
yeah.
third party platformer, cartoony style game. You can see it on Gavin's screen here. I think the cool thing that I've noticed so far is that there's a lot of subtle nods to other games like Badgerborn, obviously a take on Bloodborne, which you guys know, that's one of my like all-time favorites. So yes, 100% in. You can see kind of like the quirky nature of it where it's like kind of 3D platformy, but also somewhat hack and slash, somewhat like just like unique mechanics with this, like whatever the heck that is. Like, I don't know why we're generating tons of, chairs, but I'm in for it. And then also just like these quirky little mechanics that you can have here. I'm just really excited at the potential with this because it seems like, and Cyber Badger, obviously cyberpunk, duh, yes, get me in. But I think the cool thing here is it's taking basically the things that worked really well with like old games like Banjo Kazooie, and then it's mixing it with like things that worked really well on Astrobot, actually. Like, would you agree with that, Gavin, in terms of like making the comparison from this to Astrobot, like with the ability to have
Yeah.
like unique mechanics of adapting to certain elements of the world?
Well, yeah, it's almost like kind of like what we talked about with Pokopia, like where you take
Right.
the elements of each Pokemon. It's like game developers are realizing that they can use that as a tool to like enhance their game rather than like hinder them in any sort of way. Like this one here, like it takes the 3D platformers that we love, like that style of game, but then it takes it and mashes it into like every aesthetic that has been popular almost since like the real like it almost feels like since that time. Like it feels like this is a almost like a 90s game that's trying to play in today's world or 90s early 2000s like style 3D platform and that's trying to be in today's world and that's why it's running through all of the different styles of games and like I don't know I'm beyond ecstatic for this game. It's already on my wish list. It's probably going to get bought day 1 or pre-ordered. It's this game looks like it's going to be a blast. Um if you're here watching with us on YouTube, we're watching through the trailer. It shows at the very end that Evan Peters of American Horror Story fame, a little bit of X-Men fame as well, is going to be the
Hmm.
main voice. He's going to be the voice for Bradley, and that'll be interesting to see how because it kind of shows him going into the real world after going through all these different dimensions. So I'll be interested to see if they actually do that in the game. And if so, that'd be kind of weird, but very
Hmm.
cool if they like implement that at all into gameplay. It's not just like a cutscene or something.
Right.
But yeah, no, this game looks awesome. I'm so excited for it. It's like you said, it's very us coded.
Hmm.
Uh 3D platformer, cute humanistic looking animal running through worlds, jumping, turning into other stuff, and traversing different landscapes. Like what's more to like in a video game?
Agreed. 100%. Yeah. This one, when they announced it at, like, I think they announced it at the Game Awards or maybe shortly before that last year, I was like, yes, count me in 10 out of 10. Where's my wallet? Because I need to pay for this. Like, this is just like a cry back to our childhood, Gavin, with like the 3D platformer era when that was like peak. This is
Yeah,
like just reinventing that. And I will say, special shout out to Astrobot because I think once people saw how successful Astrobot was, they didn't look away from 3D platformers since then. So I'm hoping this is the catalyst that a lot of these game developers needed to know that this is still a genre of game that people do vibe with. And hey, by the way, video game developers, the millennials that do have more wallet share than most do in the world now, this is their type of games, like, just develop it for us. Thank you, thank you. So,
yeah.
anyways, but anything else to call out with Bradley the Badger, Gavin, before we wrap up this
Give
part of the
me
episode?
give me a release date. I need to
Yeah,
know. That's
agreed.
about the only other comment I have on it that I don't know yet. But yeah, day 4 night. If somehow you're watching this, if so, sick. Subscribe.
Yeah,
We'll continue to glaze your product, but please just give me a release date. I almost don't care if it's at the end of the year. I just want to know when to expect this so I can just like start slowly building up my anticipation instead of just frantically like when is it coming out?
exactly. Cool. Awesome. Well, guys, that has been our first half episode for 2026, just going back to January and the releases that happened in February that Gavin and I have gotten our hands on, February/March, and then talking through everything that should be available. And it's Bradley the Badger, unfortunately, probably through June 2026. And so, what we'll do in our next episode is take on the second half of 2026 with the games we do know that are releasing and also the games that are slated for 2026 that are probably more than likely going to be in that December time range, just realistically. So, we're excited to continue the conversation for 2026. But for those that haven't done so far, like Gavin mentioned, please like, subscribe, please share with friends too. We're trying to grow this as much as we possibly can so that we can continue bringing content to you all. And also do us a favor if you can like on YouTube or like on Spotify, leave us a rating. That helps us too, so that people can find the work that we're trying to push out there and just bring that positivity to the video game ecosystem. Because I feel like there's a ton of negativity, but what Gavin and I are trying to do is just convey our love of video games and make it, fun for you all as you interact with new games or old ones. So,
Yeah.
like I said, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next half of this episode.
Yeah, and if we get enough likes and Dylan gets his Switch too, maybe we'll do some recording of us playing Pokemon Pokopia together. You know, who knows?
100%. Yeah. Let us know if you want to see that in the comments. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.